We are continuing our conversation around ways into the industry because as screenwriters, and this today's topic is really important because as screenwriters, we can be very one track minded on pursuing writing, but this industry values versatility, especially now with the way the industry is. And there are actually a slew of other industry jobs that can get you in the door, gaining valuable experience, and making a good impression on the right people. So let's talk about the plethora of other production jobs that you can use as your way in. Now, before we get into all of that, I am going to introduce myself. If you don't know me, my name is Kristen Iris Johnson, and I am a showrunner, film producer, and CEO of Black Screenwriter Alliance over here, where we bring together emerging Black film and TV writers to elevate their writing portfolios, confidently build industry relationships, and forge their own paths in the industry with allies. So we are all about community here. So make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel so that you can stay informed when we go live or post new videos that can help you on your screenwriting journey. All right. Because if you are an emerging Black film or TV writer, you are in the right place. Now, let's dive in. So, I'm going to break down some different positions, potential positions in production that you could pursue as a way of moving into the industry. But before I get into that, I want you to first, when you're thinking about this as a potential avenue, right? Like there's many avenues into the industry, there's many avenues to becoming a screenwriter. It is not all like get agent, get a great deal, and now you've like made it. Like that's not real. That's not real. Just gonna be honest with you. So there are other ways that you can continue to build opportunities for yourself, right? And one of the things that I talked about in a previous live is that it's not just like one path, it's multiple paths and finding the different paths that you can pursue. It doesn't have to just be one, but finding the different paths that you can pursue that can create more opportunities for you. And these are all things that when they work together can really help to move you forward. So when you are thinking about this, moving into the industry in a position outside of writing, or if you want to be a writer director outside of writing directing, the first thing that you should think about is play to your strengths. What are you good at? And how can you leverage that in another role in production? For example, if you are a really good artist, like not just writing, but like if you are a really good visual artist, you might do well in art department because art department always needs people. If you are someone who is really organized, really good at administrative work, if you've been a manager at all, you might be really good working in production and in helping with like logistics or helping with admin work and supporting the producer or the production manager in some capacity. So, really think about what are the things that you are good at. And they don't necessarily have to be things that are specific to the industry, right? Like being an artist, that's not specific to the film industry. You know, if you're like, I'm a really good painter, that could be really useful. On Wicked City, for example, which is my TV series, we have someone in the art department. Her name is Nada. She's really great. She, a lot of the artwork that you see on that show, not all of it, but a lot of the artwork that you see on that show, she painted. Some of that artwork she painted on set. Like I remember in season 2 when we were shooting at the Mystic Haven and there was like a parking lot on the side, or actually I think it was like a grassy area on the side of the building. And the art department was over there like setting things up and doing things like that. And she was there making the art that was going to go in the Mystic Haven for season 2. So there are different things there are different skills that you may have that you can bring to the table. Like, don't just think of writing as the only skill that you have. You are a whole person and you have a plethora of experiences behind you and other skills that you have built over time. So think of how you can leverage that in a way that can be useful in another role on set. All right. So another consideration to have is, where do you want to go? And to me, this is like a much less consideration because if you are not working in the industry at all, like like get in where you fit in, okay? But it's really more important to think of like what are you strong at? What are you good at? What do you even what do you like to do? those things that you can leverage, because those are things or skills or experiences that already have value that you can bring to it. But another thing to think about is like, in terms of where do you want to go, that can kind of help guide you as far as like where might be a good place to get in. So for example, if you are a writer who also wants to produce, you might seek out positions that help you build skills in that area. Things in the production office, working with the production manager, the unit production manager, the line producer, the producer. um, Jobs like that will help you to understand some of the elements of producing. And honestly, in this industry, a lot of the work that we do is like you have to learn it on the job. Like producing, you can learn a lot about producing, in classes, but producing, because things change so fast and there's always problems you have to solve, producing is really like like a trial by fire, learn on the job kind of thing. You really have to like learn it by doing it. Honestly, the same thing with directing. So if you want to be a writer but you also have an interest in directing, um you may not get in by, let me direct my first short. You might think of, what are other ways that you can get in or get on set. For example, if you want to be a director and you have some experience with camera, you might be able to work in the camera department. You might be a camera PA. If you have further skills. So what I'm really talking is more like super, super entry level for people who have like never worked on a production. But if you've worked on a production, that might be a place where you can move up as well, like being an AC, which is assistant camera. So look at, what are your strengths, but also what is it that you really want to do? If it is not just, I only want to write scripts and sell it and not have any other involvement. I think a lot of people that are writers have aspirations that are beyond just write a script, sell it, and maybe it never gets made. I think a lot of us want to see our stuff get made. I think a lot of people are thinking about working in other avenues, like being an actor, being a director, being a producer, as well as a writer, so that you have a little bit more avenue to exercise your creativity. Because to be honest, a lot of scripts get sold that don't ever get made. So if thinking about, if you want to do something more than I write and I sell it and I don't have anything else to do with the process, which I just a guess is probably most of us, then this would be a good place to think of, where do you want to go and what's going to help you build skills to get there outside of just the writing or the activity you want to do. If you are, like I said, if you're a writer who also wants to direct, it can actually be helpful to learn in the camera department, because you're going to learn so much about um, just that whole process, the shots, how you get the shots, even like lighting. You're going to learn a lot about those things. You could work in the lighting department. That's another one. So there's a lot of different avenues, but think about really, really strongly play to your strengths, or what are you good at? What do you know? And what are you willing to learn, right? Not just like, you don't have to be an expert, but it's like, hey, I'm good with this. And like, this is an area where you can get better. Even if you're already good, like, where are you willing to learn? And then also, where do you want to go? Because that can help guide you as to like what might be a good entry point. But like I said, if you're not in at all, like, get in where you fit in. So I want to talk about potential positions or departments that you could explore. And again, these are things that are going to be based on what your skill set is and what experiences you have, what you're good at. So these are not all options that are going to be good for everybody, but these are some options that can be good for the right person. And these are just 10. Like, I'm just giving you 10 options or 10 things to think about, of like, oh, maybe this might be a good option for you. So again, make sure that you like and subscribe for more. So let's get into these potential departments slash roles. Number one, I think being a set PA is really, really beneficial. Any kind of set PA, and there are, depending on how big the production is, there are PAs where like this is actually, someone told me this during COVID. He was on a like a Netflix production, and it was a major production, and he said like he was a COVID PA. And so like all he did was, as people walked by, he reminded them to put their masks on. He's like, okay, put your mask on, put your mask up, because people were taking, people take their masks off. And so there are PAs where like they have very, very specific jobs. And then on smaller productions, the PAs do a lot, there can be a lot of like crossover, like, um, but PAs really are kind of the lifeblood of the set. The PA and the AD department, which is, um, your assistant director department. PAs are under the assistant directors. They really are the lifeblood of the set. They make sure that they keep everything running. And so as a PA, even though it doesn't have anything to do with writing, you are going to learn so much about production, how production works, how shooting works, how coordinating all of it works, all the logistics. And that is going to be really informative for you when it comes to writing, and what is actually feasible. Like, you might put something in your script and think that it's really feasible to shoot. And then somebody's like, are you kidding me? Do you have a budget for this? Right. But then there might be something else that you think is really hard to shoot that they're like, oh, this is actually really easy. These are things that you will learn by just being on set, and being a set PA can put you in the thick of things. And PAs, they do tend to have like different jobs. Like, there are PAs where like all they are doing is like they are taking care of the talent, or there are PAs that like they're handling the trash. Whatever it is that you're doing, do it, and do it excellently. Do it and learn. Do it and see every way that you can be of service to the production without stepping outside the bounds of what your job is, because like you can get in trouble for that. Like, everybody has their job, and they have their job in the pecking order for a reason. So, but in your role, like, be as enthusiastic, as thorough, as good, as of service, as observant as you can be. So being a set PA is one really, really great way to start and to learn a lot. In the PA realm, being an office PA could also work. If you are someone who wants to be a producer, who is good with admin work, who is good with organization, being an office PA can be a really great way to come in, because you're going to learn a lot about, honestly, all of the paperwork, all of the admin. These are all things that have to do with producing and coordinating. Also, production coordinator is another job. That if on a bigger production, like, you definitely have to like really have experience for it. But being an office PA, you could work up to a production coordinator position, and that could work up to like a production manager position. So when I started actually working professionally in the industry, I started, one of my first jobs was as a production coordinator. I was actually assistant producer of the project because I had multiple jobs. I was a production coordinator, I was the casting assistant, and I was also the post production coordinator as well. So I did get assistant producer. I did get an assistant producer credit on that, because as an indie project, I was doing like multiple jobs. But production coordinating is, honestly, it's a challenging job, but you learn so much about coordinating the production. There's a lot of um, paperwork, a lot of just a lot of logistics, a lot of things that you have to do, and that is also that is honestly one of the things that where I started to really learn so much more, that was informing my writing of like, oh, this is possible, or this is possible on this budget. This is what I have to be mindful if I'm trying to write something for, a smaller budget versus a bigger budget, depending on what it is. Because I had worked as a production coordinator, as a post production coordinator, and then eventually moved up into producing, which actually was like very quickly after that, I moved up into producing. But these are the places where I started production coordinating, where I was like really learning the different elements of what it takes to actually make a film production happen. So office PA, working up towards production coordinating, and then if you want to go further, keep climbing up that route up towards producing, that it can be a really, really, really great way to get you some incredibly valuable experience, and also meeting lots of people in production and on set, lots of people, lots of crew members, lots of creatives. Like, there's a lot of ways to connect with other people, because you're sort of like in the center of a lot of things there. All right, so number 3 is to work in casting. So if you're a writer who wants to be an actor, or who has acting experience, this might be a really good place for you. Um, Not necessarily being a casting director, like that's not like an entry level position, all right? Being a casting director is serious business, but being a casting associate or a casting assistant or a background casting assistant, meaning that you are basically wrangling the background and keeping the background organized, that can be something that is really helpful. It puts you in the thick of things, you can learn, and you get valuable experience that can help you. It also teaches you about the casting process. So as a writer, whether you are also an actor or want to do acting, already are, or even if you're producing, or I'm sorry, I should say want to produce, working in casting helps you to understand that process and what really goes into casting a movie or casting a TV series. So that's another great department. A little more on the creative side over here is glam or wardrobe. Glam being like hair and makeup, or wardrobe. Like if you have the skills, like if you got skills with hair, if you're a hairstylist, if you're a makeup artist, and you want to do screenwriting, you want to move into screenwriting, but if you have those skills or you're good with like styling or clothing, that could be a way that you can come in as an assistant. Maybe more so on like I guess all of them could end up having some kind of assistant or PA. You could PA in those departments if they are looking for a PA in those departments. So those are other avenues. And again, that teaches you more about the logistics. There's the creative part of it, but there's also the logistics of coordinating the hair, the makeup, the clothing. There's a lot more that goes into it than you would know if you're just on the outside. So, really great way to move in. And again, you'll also be able to connect with other people and build your network, learn, um, and continue, like moving through up or into other departments. Another avenue you could do is, especially if you are looking for a production job in a place that you're really, really familiar with, potentially being a location scout or working in the locations department in some way, right? That can be locations is like that. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like this is just my experience. I feel like locations is a bit of a challenging department, and I'm not saying in terms of like it's hard, but from what I have heard when I speak to location managers and people in locations, is they're like, man, everything is our fault. It's we didn't do this, we didn't do that. So locations has a lot of responsibility in a different way than, a lot of all of these jobs have a lot of responsibility, but locations have a different kind of responsibility. And when things go wrong, like, a lot of heat can come down on them. But if you are in a place where you're really familiar with that location, like let's say you're in Atlanta, you're really, really familiar with Atlanta, you've been living in Atlanta for like your whole life, then having that knowledge of what is where and different places, that could be something that you might be able to leverage in the locations department, working with someone there. So that is one option. Another option, and don't sleep on this one. Okay, craft services. Let me tell you, I know some people who work in craft services and they're like, we hear all the tea because everybody like comes over for snacks and then they gotta like they talking, they're gossiping, the blah blah blah. Craft services is actually a great place to come in because you will interact with everybody on the production because everybody's got to get food, right? Everybody has to get food, everybody getting their snacks. And that's actually another really good way to make a strong impression on people. So, for example, my Wicked City co-creator, Serena M. Lee. So she used to work in craft services department, right? Like she like co-owned a craft services company. And one of the things that they would do is like for different people, they would like get to know what are the kind of snacks that you like. and they'd be like, hey, I've got these snacks for you, right? So that's actually a place where you can really shine and make an impression, because there is one thing that people underestimate is how important food is on set. Like, your food is nourishing these people. They are working hard. They are working long ass 12, 14, 16, 18-hour days. They need to have fuel. And even SAG talks about this. Like, I've talked to the SAG rep. They're like, technically, you don't have to feed people. You just have to give them a lunch break. But they said that cast will remember productions that do not feed them well, and they will remember productions that do. He said he has talked to actors that were like, yeah, man, that that TV show I was on like 10 years ago, man, they had some good food. Like, people will remember that, because this is the thing that is sustaining them through production. And so as craft services, you're in a position where you are actually providing one of like the most important forms of care for not just the actors but everybody on set. And when you can really take that to a high level of service of like, making sure, like, do certain people have like this, if someone's like really particular about a snack, and maybe that snack runs out, is like, can you save some for them? Like, people really appreciate when you do things like that on craft services. Like, I will say, because I have a very particular diet because I have disabilities. So I have to stay away from a lot of things, and there's certain things that I eat that are really beneficial for managing my conditions. Now, the craft services, they were like, when they found a snack that I liked, they were like, "Oh, we got to get more of these." Like, there were these like roasted chickpeas. You see, I'm remembering this. I don't even remember what production this was on, but I'm remembering that they were getting me these snacks. It was like these roasted chickpeas, and I didn't even think I would like them, because I don't like chickpeas whole. Well, I do now. They're starting to grow on me. But at that time, I didn't even like chickpeas whole. I only liked it as like hummus or something like that. But they got these roasted chickpeas, and I was like, oh my God, guys, these are so good. And they're like, okay, we're going to get you some more. So they would make sure that they got me more of those snacks. And like, I always felt like, okay, they're really taking care of me. And that made it makes it easier. Production is hard. It's hard for everybody. It's hard for crew. It's hard for cast. It's hard for like the producers. It's hard for everybody. So, and when you are in a position like craft services where you can help make somebody's day or make them feel like cared for or appreciated, people remember that, and they will remember you. And it is not about like a transactional, oh, I'm going to make sure they get their snacks and then maybe they'll read my script. Like, nothing like that. Think about this as an avenue, as a way of like, of being of service, right? Being of service to the production, being of service and being of value, but also showing care to the people that are doing it. And as a way of like giving, because that can also help to build your connection with people. And because, like I said, people will remember that you took care of them, and that you were doing things to like, brighten their day with like this snack that they really like, that makes them feel more energized, like, or like, man, I cannot stress how like important food is to production, and how important it is to the care of like the cast and the crew. And people really remember that. So do not sleep on craft services. That is such a great place to come in. That allows you to have contact with everybody on set, to meet and connect with everybody on set, and to also show a high level of service and care that people will remember. And honestly, it's gonna make them like you more. Unless you got like a really bad attitude, but you're like, here's your snacks that you love, but also have a bad attitude. Don't do that. But this, like, people will remember you for sure, when you are taking care of them in that way. All right, so moving on. Number 7, if you have the technical skills, camera, lighting, or editing, these are 3 different departments, but these are good places for you to come in. If you have the technical skills, so this is mostly going to be people who already have kind of experience in these areas. Um, Now, if you, like I said, if you are someone who wants to be a writer and a director, these can be really great avenues as well, because As a going in on camera, you're going to learn things about the shots, about setting up the shots, about lighting, even if you're not in the lighting department, because those are two separate departments. But in editing, editing is like a different level of storytelling, right? So and that's actually a really cool thing, is like editing is a form of, it's part of the storytelling. So you're still doing something creative, but it is where you get to really shape and form the final version of the story. Now let me tell you, Wicked City season one, that finale that ended up on screen is not what we had on paper, and it's not what we were trying to shoot. We had to piece that together in the editing room. And I remember because the director was editing that episode, and it was the first edit. He was like, all right, this is kind of what we got from what was on paper, but there were like some key things that we just did not get to shoot. And I was like, okay, it's not making a lot of sense. We need to go back and let's get in there and piece it together. And so we had to kind of reshape what the story was for that like final big battle scene of season one to make it make sense when it got to screen. Like we had to re-edit it. So, coming into that department, it's not that you're necessarily coming in as the editor, because that is like a major job. But, if you have the technical skills, you might be able to come in as like an assistant editor, as a DIT, or, just in some other capacity. So those are definitely things that can be helpful, in particular if you're wanting to go into directing. So, all right, number 8 is anything art department. All right. Art department is a great creative place, and that department is usually pretty big. And it can be very broad. Like art department could involve construction, like art department is in production design. It can involve construction. It can involve painting artwork, like Nada did on Wicked City. It can involve set dressing, set decoration. It can involve a lot of different things. So there's a broad spectrum of avenues that you can get in and also move to once you are in that department. And it can be a really great place to be creative and exercise that creative muscle and any other like art or craft skills, right? So it doesn't have to just be art department or art making. There could be woodworking that you have to do. There could be like there's just so many different things that art department covers, and a lot of different skills that you can have, that you can leverage, and a lot of skills that you can actually also learn while you're in those roles. So that is definitely something that if you have any kind of art or craft ability, or you have experience in construction or anything like that, that may be a department that you want to just look at and explore. What are some things in this department that I might be able to do? And if you have not looked at that, you will be absolutely surprised by how many different things there actually are to do in that department, depending on the level of production that you're on. So definitely something to explore if you have any kind of skills in that department. And honestly, I'm actually going to say this. If you are like even mildly interested in potentially doing something in art department, but you think you don't have any skills, go look up what the jobs are. Go look up like all the different from like PA, because you could be an art department PA, from PA all the way up to, the head of the department, which is production designer. Like look for as many jobs. Look up projects, films, or TV series that you like, and go look in the IMDb credits and look at what all of those jobs actually are and look them up, because you might be surprised to find that you actually have some skill that could be used in that department. So something to keep in mind. All right, number 9, and that is a producer's assistant, right? So I said earlier that I came into the industry as a production coordinator. That's actually, now that I think about it, that's actually technically not true. That It's kind of true. So where I actually came in was this didn't have to do with the production. Production coordinator was like the first production coordinator, associate producer, all the things that I did in that. were like for that first production I worked on, but my actual first uh, internship, if you will, because it was not a paid job. My first kind of foray into the industry was really as like an unpaid intern for for an executive producer. And so I was her executive assistant. I was good. I was good at admin. I was good at organization. She was not. She was like, I need someone to run me. Um, and so actually how I did that was I had reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, you're doing what I want to do and I want to learn everything I can from you." So these are all of my skills, like literally listed everything, including like I teach yoga, I'm a martial artist, right? And I was like, "And whatever it is that you need, if I don't know it, I will go learn it." Right? And that's how I got that, essentially that like job or like internship that then became the job on production. So I came into the industry as a producer's assistant. And then on set, when the production was like, okay, we're moving forward with this production, I was an associate producer on that production because I had three other jobs on that project. So being a producer's assistant is a great way to come in, especially if you can get that as a paid job and not just as like an internship. Because and if you can't, honestly, like you were still going to learn a lot as an intern, but working closely with a producer, you are going to see a lot of things from the full scope of a project and not just the production part. Okay, so the production part being principal photography, which is we are shooting. It's the first day of shooting to the last day of shooting, right? If you are a producer's assistant, you might be involved in things that have to do with development, that have to do with pre production, post production, that have to do with delivery or distribution, that have to do with, yes, scheduling meetings, but scheduling those meetings with people that might be at networks, they might be at studios, they might be with directors that they're trying to hire. So um there is a massive amount to be learned in that role. And also, really, that's a role where you can get mentorship directly from a producer on the industry, right? Like, that's a role where you can learn about development, you can learn about different steps, you can ask questions, you can get direct guidance. While you are handling whatever different admin and logistics things that you need to as that assistant, depending on what that producer is looking for. So that can be like, that was kind of, for me, it's like I was an intern, but I was also learning a lot. Like, I was getting mentorship while I was also, you know, bringing my skills and in whatever way that was useful. So for you, if you can connect with the producer and be an assistant or an intern in some way, um, and also get that mentorship, that is invaluable, right? Like, that is something that is going to move you, and it puts you very close, right? It starts to build a very close relationship with that producer. And that can also lead to relationships with whoever else that producer is working with, whether it is fellow producers, whether it is another collaborator, whoever it is. Like, it just puts you in a really close proximity to key people that you can connect with, that you can learn from. So that is actually how I got into the industry, was as a producer's assistant, and then that led to the work on production. Um, okay, last thing. Don't forget, number 10, don't forget about post production. All right. So being honestly an assistant for like any number of people in post production can be helpful, because even though you're not on set, there's like, honestly, the on set time is like often the shortest amount of time, because there's, for example, the last movie that I shot, we shot for 15 days. We were in pre-production on that for 7 months, 6 months. It was a long pre-production. We were in pre-production on that for like 6 months. And then we were in development on that before that for like a year and a half. It was a long time, right? And then post-production was like, I think about it was about 6 months. It was about 6 months was post-production. So production, while there is like definitely so much that you can learn by working on set and so many people that you can connect with and build relationships with, there are other places where you can work. You could try working in the development department. That could be great as a writer, right? Trying to get a job in development, but also post production is a great place because you're going to learn a lot about that post production process. You're going to learn a lot about how do you actually put the story together once everything is shot and it's all in pieces. And the different elements that are part of actually putting that together. So you might be in sound, you might be working in music, you might be an assistant to the post production producer, the post production supervisor. There's a lot of jobs there. So explore, like, don't sleep on post production. It's a slower process for sure than production. Um, Except maybe in TV. It depends in TV because sometimes in television, depending on how television shoots, a lot of times these things overlap. Like you'll be in pre-production on one episode while you're in production on another episode, while another episode is in post-production. So there can be some overlapping there, but in a lot of stuff that's shot streaming, it's done actually batched, like it's done the way it is in feature film, where the episodes aren't overlapping. It's like all the episodes are done, they're developed, they're written, and then you go into like your pre-production and your production, and then you're in post. So but post production can be a long process. It can be sometimes kind of a slow and a little bit of a boring process, but maybe you're really into it. And honestly, even if you're not, there's still a lot that you can learn about how the final product is put together, and there's still people that you can connect with and build relationships with in that avenue as well. So don't sleep on it, okay? Now, remember, play to your strengths and be willing to learn and add value, right? Be of service in whatever role you're in, be of service, do the job and do it as well as you can. And be willing to learn, be coachable, be willing to own your mistakes, and because mistakes happen, but be willing to own your mistakes and do better. And when you show up and you show up fully and you show up with an attitude that is of service to the production or the project, or whoever it is that is your head of department, people appreciate that and they will remember that. Okay. So play to your strengths, learn, and then also whatever role it is that you manage to get, learn, connect, right? Build relationships, build friendships with the people that you are meeting, that you are working with, and also make sure that you have fun. All right. Because, like, what are we doing if we're not having fun? It may be stressful, but still have fun. All right. So thank you for joining me. If you want more, we have our community for Black screenwriters at blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co. You can come and try it 7 days for free. Inside, we are exploring this topic more, getting into the industry. That is what we're talking about this month of September when I am doing this live. But we also have industry guests, we have workshops, we have strategy calls where we problem solve with each other. We also have a monthly goal setting and action call, which really helps to set you up for success. And there are co-working calls, and most importantly, other emerging Black film and TV writers in there for you to connect with, and ways for you to connect and build relationships so that you can give and get support, give and get feedback, cheer each other on, and be each other's allies as you forge your own path in the industry. So make sure you check us out, blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co. And make sure that you like and subscribe so that you know when we are going live here or when we post another video. All right. And I will see you in the next video, the next live stream or video.